Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to queue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have George Moulton and Phoebe McPherson here with me on the show. George is the founder of Fungtion Mushroom Company and is here today with Phoebe, who is the head of brand and education for the company, who helps him foster Fungtion's vision to inspire deeper awareness of our bodies and create a community of safety, connection, and sacred reciprocity with our earth. Super excited to have you here. Hello, George and Phoebe. Welcome to the show, my friends.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hi, great to be here.
Yeah, so this is a special one, guys, because I actually met George through a really close friend, a mutual close friend, David Weber, shout out, several years ago, and had heard about the launch of Fungtion, and you guys did your launch party here at the Mystic Manor recently, and I was like, this is such a wonderful product and company and vision and group of people. So wanted to have you on, and being here local in the studio to record is also a special treat. So thank you guys for coming.
Of course, thanks for having us, and also thank you for letting us host the event here. It went really well.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. It was a great gathering. And so, yeah, excited to share. Obviously, you guys know there's been so much talk in recent years and awareness brought to the power of mushrooms, psilocybin, all the different, from reishi to I have lion's mane on my desk I took, earlier today. So we're gonna dive into all that stuff. But before we do, I'd like to start with my my cliche opening question, and I'm gonna ask it both of you separately. You're in an elevator. Woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You have 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
Mushrooms.
Okay, we got 9.5 floors. Phoebe, go.
My passion is helping people reconnect with their bodies and reconnect with nature through plants and mushrooms, and discovering that nothing is going to heal themselves but themselves.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to start with the backstory. I'd love to hear, I remember that night you gave a little talk and hearing a little bit, and that's what really gave me the idea at the time, like, I should really have you guys on to share a little bit about what you're up to. So if you would share, the backstory of the company and whatever feels relevant from either of you to share.
Yeah. Okay. So Fungtion, the idea for Fungtion pretty much has been almost 3 years ago now when I came up with the idea of, I knew I wanted to create a product that I could not just sell online, but that was it was allowing me to have freedom, something that I could sell, but I wanted to create a product that I knew was helping people and the environment, something that I was proud of and didn't have to kind of worry about creating a bunch of trash in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So mushrooms just kept popping up in my life, not just through I've always been into psilocybin. It's helped me in so many ways with just getting creative. So
yeah,
when I was really just on a deep dive with psilocybin, that's what kind of led me to finding about functional mushrooms. I've always been into natural medicine, and I really believe that anything your body needs to heal can come from nature.
Yeah.
So when the first functional mushroom I found about, or medicinal mushroom, was lion's mane, and it really resonated with me because my grandmother and my grandfather both suffered from Alzheimer's and dementia, and both passed away from that. So,
That's like the worst.
yeah.
I think,
Especially
way to watch loved ones.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Wow.
So knowing the benefits of lion's mane, how it's known to help prevent Alzheimer's and dementia and help with improved memory and cognition.
I've had my mom take it for the last like 3 or 4 years straight since I learned that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what really kind of sparked my interest. And once I learned about lion's mane, just went down the wormhole and started uncovering this whole world of fungi and how amazing there's just so many different benefits from each mushroom. There's literally like a mushroom for anything you need, it seems like. So I wanted to kind of just test this on my own because genetically it seemed like I was fucked with my with the history of my grandparents. So I just went on a deep end exploring lion's mane, and then finding out about all these other mushrooms, it really got me interested. So I started educating myself, and through that education, I started to realize that when you're looking for products online, there really wasn't like, how am I supposed to know where this is coming from? And that it's actually like because it's such a gray area in this market, it's like, how do you know you're actually getting what it says on the label? So when I found that out, that really was like me being myself. I was like, why don't I just create my own thing so I actually know what's in it? Yeah. And when that idea came, the first idea for Fungtion was creating an education platform. I wanted to take all the products I found online, order them myself, take them, and do my own kind of like consumer report. Interesting. And I wanted to through education was educating people on what products I felt was good and what products were reputable, what products to stay away from that I wouldn't trust. And then also just educating people on everything that I was learning along the way about mushrooms and plants to kind of just build a community based off that. Mm-hmm. And the whole goal of that was, after building that community, then I could, while I was doing that, start working on my own product that I know that as long as I trusted it, other people could trust it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what better way, if you want it done right, do it yourself kind of thing. And you're right. I mean, it's like, I just heard someone talking the other day about the benefits of olive oil, which I haven't heard in a long time. And this particular person was saying how important it is, the source you get it from, because there's so many that say olive oil, but it's not really just, it's not just olive oil, And so it really is an issue in the world today, with like so much misinformation and BS, and like knowing, it's kind of like the event we were just talking about we're having here this weekend. It's like all these vendors I know most of these people and the clothes and where they came from and who made it and who made this particular, like with you, it's like you're in my life. It's like, could you be lying to me? It's possible, but I don't think so, based off of what, what my experience is, right? And so once you have those real connections to companies, I think that's like what the future is all about. You're like choosing, we're literally voting with our dollars too, like, So very cool. Phoebe, how did you get involved with this? Tell us a little bit about your backstory too.
How I got involved with Fungtion?
Mm-hmm. Or just in general, mushrooms. Whatever feels relevant to share from your backstory to get you to this seat right now.
I think one of the most important things is that, like, I truly believe that the mushrooms found me. I've always had a deep connection to the earth and to nature. I've been vegan for like 16 years. Oh, wow. But in college, I was studying sustainable agriculture and cultural anthropology and journalism, and felt really connected to fighting for the earth, right? And like being a better consumer, being a better citizen of this earth. But as life goes, one job led to another, and suddenly I was deeply, deeply disconnected from myself, and deeply disconnected from the earth. And everything that I was doing on a daily basis was the antithesis of what I knew I really believed in. And it was thanks to an experience with psilocybin mushrooms and Kana together, where I started laughing and crying at the same time. And I looked at this world around me, and I knew that my life would never be the same. Wow. And that nothing could continue the way that it would. and that the rest of my life would be dedicated to plants and mushrooms.
Wow.
And from that day forward, that's exactly what happened. I quit my corporate job. I had a complete change of relationship. I moved, and all of my focus and energy went deep into mushrooms and plants. And from that day forward, that's my entire focus and passion.
Wow. It's so fascinating how many people, and I'm sure listeners out there, like if I had a nickel for every time I heard that psilocybin was the gateway to X, transformation in my life, right? I'm sure you guys hear it even more than I do, being in, dealing with mushrooms on a daily basis. But it really is such a powerful teacher and course corrector, it seems, right?
Totally. When I think something that we're seeing more and more is this reconvergence of plants and mushrooms together. So rather than just straight psilocybin, people are adding in other plants.
Right.
And those together are activating like body and mind, or heart and mind, or spirit and mind, and bringing that all together to open people up in ways that they've never been able to before, right? Because mushrooms are incredible at opening up your mind and your consciousness, but then you add in something that opens up your heart as well, and a whole new part of you is activated.
So I so relate. So my journey with psilocybin, began over 20 years ago. First time, I tried psilocybin mushrooms and had such profound, powerful experiences that were really transformational and, set me on the path. It definitely contributed to what I do now, talking about consciousness and the ultimate nature of reality and sharing on the show. And then it kind of changed for me. I don't know if you guys hear this much, but like psilocybin, all of a sudden I would have like challenging journeys mostly. And I kind of put it aside for a long time and just was like, you know what, I guess, was it Terrence McKenna that said, if you get the message, hang up the phone? I think it might have been him, and for me, I felt like, okay, maybe that's my journey with psilocybin mushrooms anyway, and I kind of went back in the last couple years again, and just like, and mixed them with MDMA, which Kana is kind of similar to that. A lot of people are probably less familiar with Kana. I have had an experience with Kana before as well, with actually ayahuasca, on the tail end of an ayahuasca journey. But yeah, I noticed that the mushrooms were a lot, and then I tried them again within the last year alone and had kind of a challenged experience again. But with MDMA, I had a really great experience. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of makes me think of that.
Well, and it's so interesting too, because I think especially in American consumerism, we find something from nature that makes us feel good, and instead of viewing it as an ally and something that can help us over a short period of time, we decide that we need it constantly.
Totally.
And we have to overdose on it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And the same thing's happening with mushrooms and with all of these other incredible allies that come from the earth.
Right.
And I think, there's a call that we are seeing now to gently maybe step back our usage and look at these truly as things that can help us in times of need, but not something that we should be relying on every day.
Great point. I heard someone say a few years ago, and it really rung true for me, to whenever you're using any kind of, consciousness altering substance, really self-examine and say, am I using this to enhance or escape?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a lot of people go from, it starts out as an enhancement, an expansion, and then it's like, it can then turns into like a crutch and like escaping and disconnecting from life. And so it's like so many things. The scalpel can kill and it can heal, it's like this double-edged sword kind of thing.
Well, totally. And I think we kind of get to that point, that spiritual bypassing, when stuff is scary that starts to come up and people don't have the proper tools to integrate, right? Like psychedelics and even plants and mushrooms can be incredible tools for healing trauma and working through the parts of ourselves that we're not ready to look at. But if we're not ready to look at it, and we never are ready, then we kind of go around that and we start just like getting high, right? Or wanting to escape rather than really addressing what's going on. Yeah. So it's a really fine line for all of us to be walking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about your journey with psilocybin? You said it originally kind of led to, starting this company. Is it something where you found over time? Have either of you had a similar experience where it's
I have. So this is like, I first was introduced to psilocybin in high school because I was just very curious. I wanted to explore everything, but I was introduced to it in the wrong way. It was completely miseducated because there was not proper education on it. Everyone thought that was you're supposed pretty much the way I was told is like you're supposed to the amount that you're supposed to take was way more than what I needed. And because of that, like when you first take it, I feel like you get this wrong perspective that every time you take mushrooms, you're going to be hallucinating and having to battle your mind and like worry about having a bad trip.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the first times I took them. I like took over an eighth of mushrooms and realized that like
the strong initial dose.
But just like getting in your head and like worrying like, am I going to come back?
Yeah. Right.
And after doing that a few different times, I started to learn how to cope with that and learn how to like guide myself just naturally. And like, I found like that was through music.
Yeah.
By playing, like learning the music that I like and learning how to like set the vibe when I was taking them, I was able to control it and not go like steer towards bad trip.
Yeah.
But and then I also experienced too with like, I like having some type of dark situations with mushrooms. It kind of made me like, oh, maybe I don't want to take those. So I kind of like took breaks from it. And then I just kept it just kept coming back into my life. And then I met someone who was using them to like go out to the bars and taking small doses of it instead of drinking. And I was like, oh, why?
Yeah.
Like, what is this all about?
Microdose.
So then I learned about like, and that was just like staying like under a certain threshold, like under a gram.
Yeah.
Which is like, when I started doing that, I was like, oh, there's different levels to this. Yeah. So it's like, as over the years, learning how to actually properly dose and learning that there's completely different experiences to different levels. I was like, there's so much more to mushrooms than what I was taught or what I was introduced to. So
and that intention going in, right?
Yeah,
like your intention
like,
wasn't like, let's get
exactly.
really screwed up, like versus like, I want to be respectful of this very powerful plant.
And not really understanding like the whole medicinal part of it.
Yeah.
Until later on.
Yeah.
So it's just like over the years understanding it more and developing way more respect for the medicine.
Yeah.
It just kind of like helped me grow.
Yeah.
A lot. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating because one of the things that I saw this maybe a few years ago for the first time, you hear a lot about the different substances that people are taking, like alcohol being probably the most, prolific and used substance on the planet, and it like kills brain cells, right? Well, mushrooms causes brain cell growth, right? Which we thought for a long time at a certain point that would stop, right? Once you reach a certain age, you don't, but here now we can see like, I mean, if that isn't for someone who's skeptical and like, maybe someone like really conservative, like I take my parents, for example. My father is, 75 years old, and I gave him psilocybin mushrooms this year. I've never seen him have a drink. I've never seen him hardly, he's like churchgoer, like doesn't cuss, and it's like, but the evidence now, I mean, so you're having, some legalization taking place. I know they just passed a law somewhere in Colorado where now you can use them
Very beginning stages.
Very beginning stages, right? And so it's so inspiring though to see the shift in. I mean, if my parents can be shifted in perspective around it, anyone can. So.
Totally. Well, and I think something that's so interesting is, all three of us and all of your listeners are going to have different perspectives of how people should treat mushrooms and plants, medicine, or something that's pharmaceutical. But the beauty is that we have the capacity and the responsibility to hold this spaciousness for people to enter however they need to so that they can discover mushrooms on their own, whether that is something that's more recreational or pharmaceutical or ceremonial or medicinal. Yeah. And then from there, they can make the decisions for themselves, right? Like we've all had such different experiences with it, and people deserve to have that experience.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your event. You were here. You have the one product initial, or there's multiple products.
We're starting with one.
Okay, and that is like a kind of like a tincture.
It is.
Which I thought was really. I'm not big on. Like I've got lion's mane pills sitting here, but I don't really love taking pills. I prefer like a tincture. So maybe talk a little bit about the contents of that tincture and why. Yeah. Because that will take us down the rabbit hole of the different, non-psychoactive mushrooms that Fungtion is offering.
So when coming up with this, I wanted to use a tincture because after doing my own research, it seemed like out of everything, a tincture was the best way to actually get the medicinal compounds of what was in mushrooms and plants, just because it's the most bioavailable way to take them. I wanted to make something easy because I wanted to be convenient for people to take with them on the go. And having a little tincture bottle, like you can bring that with you anywhere. You can add it to anything. You can
Put it in your smoothie.
You can put it in your smoothie, any beverage. You can put it directly under your tongue. It's easy. Like if you don't enjoy the taste, you just add it to a beverage. With pills, it's like, yeah, pills can be good too, but it's like some people don't like taking pills, and then it's like remembering to take them. Tincture is just like, it's very easy and convenient, and I wanted that to be like a highlight for the product.
Cool.
But with the ingredients that I chose, I really wanted to highlight my life, like helping my lifestyle, because I was this was a passion project of creating something for myself. I wanted to help heal myself, and my whole life has been high impact sports, from snowboarding, surfing to cliff jumping, just doing all types of stuff that really took a toll on my body. I wanted to help give back to my body and just kind of replenish everything that I've done.
Yeah.
So my biggest focus was I wanted energy, but I wanted it to be energy that would last. I would not like, I stopped drinking coffee over a year ago because I was just sick of having that like instant energy and then the crash.
Yeah.
And I started learning that there's other ways to get energy without coffee. So that's why one biggest focus was sustain energy that would last throughout time and not affect your adrenals. Then also memory and focus, having support that because of my genetics. And I've also like smoked cannabis my whole life, so that's definitely affected my short-term memory. Yeah, which also was why I wanted to use lion's mane. Huge proponent for that. And then libido, because I'm getting older. It's like I want to stay young and healthy, and like libido is just like something I feel is very important to be.
It's that life force, right?
Yeah,
It is your life
so that was like, there's gonna be more formulas, but that I wanted to just start with one formula to kind of highlight what we're all about, and then just grow from there.
Cool.
And take our time.
Can you share a little bit of what those ingredients are?
Yes. So to start with the two mushrooms I chose lion's mane and cordyceps. And then for the herbs, we have panax, ginseng, rhodiola, guarana, goji berry, holy basil.
Wow. So that's all the ingredients in the tincture.
Yeah.
Right there.
And then there's a little bit of lemon and ginger to sweeten it. And then everything is triple extracted. So we first do a hot water extract, which is really important for mushrooms to get out those beta glucans that we absolutely love. Super supportive for your body. And then we do an alcohol extract, which is important for the non-water soluble active compounds in both mushrooms and plants that we need. And then finally, we do a fermentation process. And the entire tincture takes about 100 days to make.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. So most people are doing either a hot water extract or a dual extraction, but we take it a step further and do a triple extraction.
Cool.
Yeah, and then everything is certified organic as well, which is really, really important when you're looking at products that are either plants or mushrooms, especially mushrooms, which are hyperaccumulators. You want to make sure that at the very least it's going to be organic.
Gotcha. And those particular ingredients, I mean, can you just share a little bit about what each ingredient sort of highlights? I mean, we've talked a little bit about lion's mane and what that does. The cordyceps and the other even...
Cordyceps is just another powerhouse mushroom. It is mainly for endurance and energy. It's also for libido. It's an antioxidant. It helps combat cognitive decline. Then for rhodiola, it's an adaptogenic.
It's an adaptogenic bark from Siberia. What's really incredible about rhodiola is that it fights stress-related fatigue. So oftentimes when people are really anxious and they're stressed and you remove that part of them, they're going to be really, really tired because they've been in the state of fight or flight. Rhodiola does the best of both, right? So it's going to balance out your mood, it's going to boost your energy, and it's also going to make you less anxious. It's such an incredible herb. It was actually been studied, one of the most studied adaptogens since the 1960s, especially in Russia. The studies are so profound that Russia still has them classified, which is incredible. And
now that's a non-mushroom additive into this.
It is a non-mushroom, yeah. So we have two main mushrooms, which are organic lion's mane and organic cordyceps, which work synergistically together. Lion's mane is really incredible for your brain. And then cordyceps is really incredible for oxygenating your system, creating energy, ATP production for all of your cells. And it's going to work on endurance. So you're getting that mind-body connection. And then we're adding in other incredible nootropics and adaptogens to round out this formula to continue to support this energy, focus, and libido that we really want and that George was really focused on.
Cool.
Yeah. And then after that, we have Panax Ginseng.
Yep.
Ginseng, I know, is like an energy boost, right?
Incredible.
And that was more for like the sustained energy too, without the crash. So that's why I really chose that. And it also increases response to sexual stimuli and improves erectile dysfunction as well. So that's for libido.
We love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely am a proponent for that.
Anything to fight ED. And then we have Unholy Basil, which is incredible for your immune system and for digestion and for energy just in general. What I love is that it's so great for spiritual detoxification and supporting your mind.
Cool.
Yeah.
What
And goji berry.
there's
Goji
more.
berry is an aphrodisiac and tonic for preserving vitality.
Yeah, that's like anti-aging kind
Yeah.
of attributes, right?
And it
Totally.
promotes the growth of gut health, bacteria, and your immune support.
And then finally, we have the Brazilian seed for energy, known as guarana. It's really incredible. It's technically a stimulant. It gives a ton of energy for your system. People have loved it in Brazil for ages and ages. They used to actually make drinks out of it, the indigenous of Brazil. We put in just enough to really give you energy, but not so much that you're truly stimulating your system,
Right.
which again is one of the most important things. We didn't want to stimulate people to the point that we are actually affecting their adrenals or spiking their cortisol levels. We want to make sure that we are really continuing that sustained energy over time.
Wow, very cool. Is there anything else? Holy basil, right? Didn't you say?
Yeah, holy
That was
basil.
we just talked about
Oh,
that.
you
And
did say that
then
one. Okay.
the lemon and ginger
that was
extract.
just-
And then it's sweetened with a tiny bit of glycerin. So it tastes really sweet, which means you
Yeah,
want to
I mean,
it.
I tasted it, and I intend to actually take it on a regular basis, and I'll let you guys know my experience. I tried it the night of the event,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago. So now that you're here, I hope to get some and start taking it and just seeing, because I still have coffee every morning. I find, with some people it has like sort of a really negative effect or keeps them up. I mean, I'm pretty, low impact, but I find if I have too much, then my adrenals start feeling really shot, and I know I'm on the far end of not being negatively impacted, but definitely upping. There's so many levels that are possible as we all not only evolve our understanding of our physical body, but our spiritual awareness, and it's like, and to me it feels like, I mean, there's been so much, like even some of the documentaries in the last year, what Fantastic Fungi, and it's just fascinating, like the intelligence of these, these. I mean, I've heard them said also, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, that mushrooms are kind of in between an animal and a plant.
They are.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, they're an entirely different kingdom. When we look at the kingdoms of the earth, we have the 5 kingdoms. We have plants, animals, fungi, and then 2 others, which are like mitochondria and cells. So they are in between, but they are just completely different, right? It's a whole new subsection of living things on this earth, which I think is so incredible. And we're finding new species of mushrooms and learning more about them every day. Like people study just one plant, like cannabis, for example, right? But when we're studying mushrooms, we're studying thousands upon thousands of species that we really don't know a ton about.
Yeah.
So it is kind of between a plant and an animal, but it's like, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. It's its own thing.
Yeah, it's completely its own thing. And how beautiful it is that it is now just coming to fruition, that people are so excited to be learning about it, and that mushrooms are popping up now more than ever, and we have access to such science that is going to help give validity to ancient wisdom that people weren't able to accept otherwise.
Yeah.
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 That actually kind of like reminds me of like when I first started this project, the name, like it went through so many different like phases of development before we finally launched. And one of the first names that it went through like a few different names, but Unseen was what I was like when I wanted to do the education part. I wanted it to call it Unseen because at that time I like really believe that mushrooms were the unseen healers of the world, and that was like
Ooh,
how I wanted
like
to
that.
portray it.
Yeah.
But I started working on the education part and just like kind of like trying to think of the next step, I just couldn't imagine, like I couldn't picture the name because I'm so particular on branding and products, and
right,
like
right.
I'm very like attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see unseen on the products that I wanted to come up with. So I kept getting like a call, like my friend kept asking me to like come and do a mushroom journey with his like spiritual guide. And he just like over time finally like caved in. I was like, you know what, I'll go do this. And when I was going into that, like I was like, this is the perfect time for me to set my intention. My intention was to come up with a new name for Unseen. And through that, it actually happened. That's how Fungtion came.
And it's Fungtion, Fungtion, like fungi function.
Exactly. Yeah. So
wow.
But yeah, it was
so that came
weird.
to you on a psilocybin journey.
Yeah, the guy just like there was a spot where we were just listening and he just kept talking, and like there's this one point where he just kept saying function.
Really?
Over and
oh
over.
Wow, he was saying it out.
He just kept saying it out loud and loud, and I was like, it just clicked. I was like,
just throw a G in there.
I was like, that's it. And then I was just like, yeah, with the G, fungi and plants, like whole point of this product was helping your body function.
Great.
So it just like went, and like the next day, I just like it stuck in my head. The next day, I looked up to see if there was any companies and trademarks. There was no trademark for it. I was like,
got him.
I was like, that's it. Let's go. And from there, it's just been Fungtion ever since.
I like it. I'm such a nerd for like names and double meanings. Like, you know, the late night style show I did is optimistic, spelled with a Y. You know, it's like that. So I definitely I appreciate the name a lot. So I'm curious, you know, I've been hearing, well, a couple things. One that I was going to bring up a minute ago, the intelligence of these, you know, whatever their intelligence, they have their own consciousness, right? I mean, have you guys heard of this? I think it was in Japan where they used mushrooms to try and figure out the best route for the subway system, like in this elaborate system. They created a model of the subway system, something like this. You might be able to speak on it better.
Yeah, it's mold. So
okay.
are mushrooms.
Right. And I just saw mold pop up on your phone. Someone called and it looked like an unknown number and it was like mold something. And I'm like, oh, that seems relevant. And here it is. Okay.
Here it is.
Yeah.
So what they did, and correct me if I'm misremembering, but essentially they dropped like mold into a petri dish and then allowed it to spread out. Right, and see
through the recreation of what the subway system was like, or something,
so
right?
So it just allowed it to grow to see like the best route, like outward, and it perfectly matched the Tokyo subway system.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that magic?
Yeah, it's like literally. Or I had heard, and maybe I heard it wrong too. Like I said, I should have probably looked at this up before, but they actually used and changed what they were doing based off of.
Oh, they might have.
So it was like. They were trying to figure out the best route. They let the mold do its thing, and then they were like, "Oh, yeah, this is the most optimal way to do this." And so, literally using the intelligence.
Yeah.
And so, mold is essentially like spores, like a mushroom, right?
Depending,
Yeah. Gotcha. Wow, it's so fascinating to think of like how much we think we're pretty intelligent, but then you realize like nature. Nature knows, right?
It's
and that's like one of your little
our tagline.
Nature knows. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. You know, like look at mushrooms and the way that they can clean up oil spills, right? And mushrooms are like hyper accumulators. Like they.
Is that one of the best things, or the best thing to clean up oil is using mushroom?
Depending on the spill, but there's a ton of research now looking into using mushrooms to clean up oil spills, which is incredible. But mushrooms just in general, like they are so intelligent, and many of them are immunomodulators. And an immunomodulator is something that can either up or down regulate your immune system depending on what your body needs. And how magic is it? How wonderful is it that this mushroom can come into your body and can scan your body and know, oh, okay, this person's immune system needs to be upregulated to support them against something, or it's overreacting, so we're going to downregulate it. Like that is true intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And it's what do you guys think of this idea? I'm sure you've heard it before, like stoned ape theory, that mushrooms help to lead to our evolution.
I'm a full believer in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terrence McKenna.
Yeah. It's like, so if you guys aren't aware, it's the idea that, our ancestors going way, 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 way back, eh, taking, psilocybin, and that led to the expansion and rapid evolution of our consciousness. It's a theory, and it's one that, a lot of people seem to think have a lot of, potential validity. And I saw something not too long ago as well, and it was like they found these old shaman, Siberian shamans or something from so many thousands of years ago, and they had their little satchels with psilocybin in them, so we know going way back that, our ancestors have used these substances, right?
Yeah, I mean, we cannot doubt that mushrooms and plants have played a huge part in the evolution of culture, no matter what you believe.
Yeah, right. Have you heard this idea of they actually have traveled here to evolve our consciousness on like an asteroid or meteor or whatever?
Yeah. They're not from this planet.
Yeah. That's a really interesting
I believe that as well.
Yeah. Really, really interesting that, the spores being able to survive, right?
Space travel, yeah.
They can survive out there.
Mm-hmm.
What a trip, right? How robust is that? That you can survive that environment, and then
even like
it's a way to travel, and like literally, it's just the same way pollen works, right? On a larger scale, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting transferred from one place to another,
and
over
the length
distance.
of time that they can like stay stagnant and still grow from being able to find spores like hundreds or thousands of feet below the ocean and extract the spore from that and bring it up to the surface and still be able to grow.
Wow.
From that.
And it's a spore that's underground that really isn't made to be in the water. Is that like, it was like many, 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 many years before there was water there kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Wow. What a trip. What do you think? I heard something recently, and it was talking about reishi and how that was like the sort of top Chinese, I forget who I heard talking about this. And
the mother.
Yeah, saying it's like the mother mushroom. Yeah, the in Chinese.
In the Materia Medicas of China, it was rated like number 1 in terms of support for your system. So there's 3 different levels of ratings within the Chinese Materia Medicas, and reishi was like the top rated above like everything else. It's known as the elixir of immortality.
Wow.
It's such an incredible mushroom. It used to be my favorite mushroom when I was first studying my work, but it's profound. And what I think is incredible is, we look at these ancient cultures and indigenous wisdom and look at how much they've written about these mushrooms, right, in their Materia Medicas, and how much that still, rings true to this day.
Yeah. Wow. And is there a particular thing it's supposed to be good for? Is it all around health?
It is all around health and balance, but it's incredible for your immune system and for your nervous system, promoting a sense of calm.
Gotcha. Do you guys take, aside from your tincture, obviously that was your first, like, okay, this is my ground zero thing I want to take every day. Are you taking additional, like reishi or any other things?
Of course.
Yeah, cool.
Of course.
Yeah.
Big fan of all the other brands that are out there. It's like you get inspired by other people.
Yeah, right.
And it's like all just part of the community. So it's like I fully support like any mushroom company or plant company that's out there
authentically doing what they say they're
doing. What they say they're doing is like that I support, and like I've actually tried. It's like I support everyone else. Like that's what the whole mushroom space should be about, is community and supporting each other.
Totally. It's all about lifting each other up.
Yeah, one of my favorites that I like daily take every day is Four Sigmatic, their protein powder.
That's who I think I saw talking about. Actually, now that you mention it, I think it was the guy from Four Sigmatic, I know, Clip, talking about reishi.
Yeah, but I like that protein mix that they have is just like, I take that as my smoothie base every day, and it's just like, it really sets the base of my day.
Yeah, cool. You had mentioned how important it is, as far as the source. And I know a lot of mushrooms come from China as well. What's the difference there? Like, what would you say? Is it mainly just the organic issue, or is there other things?
No, I would say it's not just organic. It's also like where it's grown as well, the environment, because mushrooms they're powerful absorbers. They absorb like everything around them in the environment. So
yeah, right.
I don't believe it's like because there's a huge controversy on like people thinking like mushrooms coming from China are bad, but that's just because it's just stereotypes. Like people just think like all the environment in China, it's like everything is just like pollution, pollution.
Right.
But they also have mountains and beautiful. There's
Yeah, a lot of beautiful nature there too, right?
Nature there, yeah.
Well,
So it's like
something that we forget is that many like mushrooms come from China, and there are farmers there who've been farming in open air, growing mushrooms on the substrates that they grow on in nature, so on wood, for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And like there is deep, deep wisdom in that.
Yeah.
There are incredible companies that are sending mushrooms from China over to here that are organic. They're grown on the substrates that they do in nature, like I just said, and they're fruiting body only. And just because they're grown in China doesn't mean that it's something bad, right?
What's the right? That makes total sense. What is fruiting body versus substrate like?
Yeah, so within the mushroom space, there is a debate as to whether you should use the fruiting body only, which is literally just what you think of when you think of a mushroom, just that, versus using some of the mycelium and the substrate.
Mm-hmm.
So when certain places in China, specifically like real mushrooms and Namex, they are proponents of fruiting body only. Like hardcore fruiting body only, we don't want to use mycelium. While in the US, there are many people that believe in mycelium and that you need some mycelium. But what happens is that when you have a mycelium in your product, you're typically taking the entire substrate, which is what the mushroom's growing on, and throwing it into a grinder. And sometimes the substrates in the US are not what mushrooms naturally grow on in real life. It might be like rice, coconut coir, wheat, all of these other things. So you might be getting that in your product. All of that being said, there is research now to show that some mycelium can be really beneficial to you because you're getting things other than the beta-glucan polysaccharides, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's really incredible research coming out right now to support a little bit of lion's mane mycelium in your products. And so, like, I know for me personally, I've always been a really hard proponent of fruiting body only. I only want mushrooms that are grown on natural substrates. I do not want it on synthesized or inauthentic substrates. But as research has continued to come out and I've built my relationship with mushrooms and with mushroom farmers in the United States, some of my perspective has started to shift. And I think we'll be able to see that across the space as time goes on. It's kind of an issue point of access versus what people really want versus what do you feel most called to. Do you feel like mycelium is going to resonate with your system or not? And we can provide you that education, and then you get to make the most informed decision possible for your body.
Cool. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, we're still babes in the woods learning a lot of this stuff, right? And I think that's important to always be open to, as new information enters the picture to reassess,
Well, exactly. And if you're going to have mycelium in your product, for everyone out there, know what % mycelium is in your product and also know what the substrate these mushrooms are growing on is. Is it gluten? Is it coconut coir? Is it something else? Do you want that in your product? Because you're going to then ingest that. And then also where are these mushrooms grown, right? If they're grown out like in open air but under a tent, but they're grown next to a highway, mushrooms are hyperaccumulators. You do not want that pollution.
Yeah.
Or they're grown deep within the Pacific Northwest away from pollution. If they're not, then maybe something from China that's 200 miles from any pollution is going to be more supportive for your system.
Right.
There's a lot of education and a lot of things to be thinking about when you're making choices on your product. And we're not here to tell you which product is better or not. That's a decision for you to make for yourself, but rather we can provide access points and entry points for you to start making decisions.
Right. And so for your own mushrooms, have you sourced and just you found farmers that you want? Are you growing them yourselves, or are you just wanted to find, farmers that you knew were doing it the way you wanted it done?
So we're really lucky that we work with farmers in the state of California who are honestly even more passionate than we are about growing mushrooms in the way that they grow mushrooms. So it's really incredible. Same with the plants as well.
Cool.
And both George and myself are obsessed with how we feed our body, how we treat our bodies every day. Of course, we live in Southern California and LA. And so, we put that same efficacy and ethos onto the ingredients that we're sourcing.
Cool. Love it. And I was trying to remember earlier the I believe it's a mushroom that from what I heard, they first found monkeys eating them off the sides of like cliffs or something, and these monkeys lived a lot longer than normal monkeys. Shilajit? Am I saying that right?
Shilajit.
Shilajit.
I don't believe.
Is that not a mushroom?
I don't think it's a mushroom.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's definitely very popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Love it, but I don't think it's a mushroom.
Okay. Got it.
I thought it was like a mix. Shilajit was a mixture of.
It's like a plant and something else.
Yeah. Oh, really? Interesting. Now, someone told me about this years ago. I've never taken it. I don't know why it just popped into my head, and I just wanted to ask you guys about it.
It's definitely like in the collective consciousness. It's getting more popular now more than ever, and people are really, really loving it, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to look into that more.
You should.
Yeah, I will. So what's next for you guys? I mean, it's very exciting. You've gotten to, like I said, launch. You guys just really did your official launch with a great event here a few weeks back. What sort of, you've got your first product. What is next? Do you have your next product and 4 products slated?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tell us.
So the next product's going to be a beverage. And the beverage was basically like, that was kind of the first idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted a functional mushroom beverage. But I knew that was going to take a lot longer than a tincture. So the tincture was like, this was more of a product to come out with just so I could have something while I'm slowly working on the beverage part.
Gotcha.
And it's taken me over 2 years. And in that 2 years, it's like I'm constantly just going into my favorite stores and just seeing new brands pop up every day with people just adding functional mushrooms and plants into it. So me, just like from the time I came up with this idea, just constantly watching all these other brands pop up, the way it's affected me is more like, I wasn't rushing to come out with a product. I like to take time because
you wanted to do it right.
I like taking time. So it's like now I've had that time to look and assess every new product that's coming out there and try them and kind of like weigh out the pros and cons. Like, what do I like about this? What do I not like about this? How can I make it better?
Right.
And over that time, we finally have just finished my first formula for the beverage. And like, for instance, it's changed from like when I first started, I wanted to be like an energy and focus or an immunity drink, like something like that. But now it's like the final transformation is to focus on the alcohol replacement space. And because in the past year, I stopped drinking alcohol and just have noticed how good that's been on my body. Like, just natural energy coming back. Like my skin, like just everything my life has been so much better without alcohol. And that kind of made me really want to focus on how can we make because then when I go out to the bars or I'm out socializing with people, everyone's drinking. It's like, I'm just drinking water.
Right.
But why is there no options for me to drink something that kind of is like a nice cocktail or mocktail?
Yep.
But I'm actually getting benefits for my body and not just something that's either adding sugar to my body or just
poisoning yourself.
Or making me feel like shit the next day. So that was like the new mission, to go down like using mushrooms and plants to create a functional beverage that is going to benefit me in great ways.
Elevate your mood.
Yeah. So there's just so many ways you can do to kind of like elevate your mood, or just in general, like what we chose was to go for the aphrodisiac libido boosting factor. Because why not drink something that's going to like elevate your libido and act as an aphrodisiac when you're actually drinking it socially with people?
I mean, that's a lot of what the bar is about anyway, right?
Yeah. So basically we ended up going that route, and we came up with our ideas to do two flavors for each formula. So we want to base it around like we're going to have 4 tincture formulas and 4 beverage formulas based around the 4 elements of nature. And each formula we want to have 2 flavors. So the first product we're going to come out with for the beverage space is going to be the aphrodisiac.
Cool.
Libido boosting beverage. And we've already finished the formula. Now we're just kind of working on finishing the packaging, the can design, and just getting to that next step, because with the beverage space, it takes a lot more money to get into. So that's why we're taking
I've heard I have a good friend who works at Olipop. And he was sharing, which is like a prebiotic soda sort of replacement.
The ginger one is one of my faves.
Yeah, it's good. And he's just shared some of his journey over the, years being there, one of the original team members, and they've just blown up, and, the challenge with getting cans and, yada, yada. So I know there's a lot to that business, but that's awesome. That's an exciting, as someone who's constantly drinking something,
you're always
it's
drinking something, but it's like when it comes down to like with the functional beverage space, instead of drinking alcohol, it's like, why alter your consciousness when you can heighten it?
Yep.
That's what the beverage is going to be about.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, wow, very, very cool. I'd like to, as we sort of wind down here, I love good story time from my guest. And so, story of synchronicity or serendipity or a positive paranormal story. So wondering if one or both of you have something up your sleeve that's inspiring to share.
Yeah, I guess I could just... Basically, the way Phoebe and I met, it's like literally the universe brought us together like we were meant to work together. Because the amount of times that we kept bumping into each other and life just like... I'm trying to think like how we first met. It was like she reached out through DMs but didn't really know who I was through just like a business page. And I like saw her profile. I was like, oh my... like I have so much in common with this person, but they don't know.
Yeah.
And we just like, we tried to like meet up and see if we could like collaborate on anything. Just never, like, we were both living such busy lives. It just didn't happen. But we then bumped into each other at an event in San Francisco. And that's when we first met. And we kind of exchanged contacts there, but just never really got to like really connect. So throughout the next year, we just kept bumping into each other at different events based around mushrooms and plants. And I like at that time, I was like at the beginning stages of working on Fungtion, and she already had her own business that she was running. And then the timing finally, I just realized that like, it's all about timing. Like maybe like we were meant to meet each other, but like, over time, it made more sense when we finally like connected on the last time. When I started Fungtion, I knew like I needed to build a team, because I believe that like I want to build a team that like putting the right people in the right places. Like I can't do everything. I know what I'm good at. Like I'm coming up with ideas and the vision and like executing and putting the right people in place. So at that time, I was at the phase where I was really needing to start adding people to help with the next step. And I didn't want to go just looking online and hiring random people. I wanted my team to come naturally, and like basically I was like manifesting the right people to come just like fall into my lap. And that's pretty much how Phoebe happened. At the time that we finally reconnected, she had just like kind of ended her stuff with her last business, and she was just like, she was actually available for me to hire for consulting. So I was like, I invited her to come see what I was doing and tell her about it, and she liked the idea. So we just worked on like, I hired her for like a 3-month consulting contract, and then over that time we were just like, the more and more we learned about each other, like this is like, we have so much in common. We just have like we just have the same perspective on mushrooms and plants, and just it really felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah, water seeks its own level. You find those people that you have, I believe, soul contracts with to
for sure,
to do particular things, achieve particular things, but all kinds of relationship from work and otherwise. It's just like, it's so fascinating to see the people that, and I've had that experience before where I just keep bumping into the person like over time. It happened with my child's mother. It's like, I just, in this big city, Nashville at the time, like I just kept like randomly, this person would be thrust in my face,
Wow.
And then it was just like, oh, okay, like this is why that happened. And it's really fascinating when you align in that way.
It truly is. And it's so interesting what happens when we stop trying to push and pull on the universe and push and pull on like connection in life, and just really surrender to all that life has to offer. And it's in those moments that serendipity can really flex its magical muscles, right?
Yeah, well said. Well, this has been so awesome. And I know, listeners are inspired to go deeper down the mushroom rabbit hole to follow the mycelium tracks and learn more. And I'm sure some will want to continue to follow you guys' journey and even, start taking the tincture. Like I said, I tried it and I meant that night to get some from you before you left and I didn't. So I'll keep you guys posted how it impacts me as I start taking it with some regularity. And then for those who would be interested in joining me on that journey, what is the best way for them to get the product?
So the best way for anyone to get the product is to go to letsfunction.com and use code POSITIVEHEAD, and you'll get 10% off of one of our mushroom tinctures. And then we are also going to put a link for Let's Function into the show notes as well. So just go to the show notes and you can click that link and you'll be sent straight there. Cool. Or just DM Brandon.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. I appreciate you guys giving people a discount. I know they appreciate that too. So yeah, and it's Function with a G, remember. So Let's Function. The link's in the show notes, and just be sure to use code POSITIVEHEAD to get your discount. And I'll keep you guys posted on how it goes for me. I'm excited to turn in my big bottle of lion's mane pills here for something like more robust. So I'm gonna have to ask you guys afterwards what you think of this brand, because that's what I've been taking from.
That's our favorite.
Oh, it's a good brand. Okay, cool. Yeah. I did good then, because that's what I've had my mom taking for years too.
They're really good.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have her switch over though to taking this every day too, because all the other things you guys have put in, it's like
it's all about stacking.
But wait, there's more. Yeah. That's something that I think is we didn't really touch on, like kind of like the nootropic sort of versus adaptogen. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's one last question for you guys, because I'm kind of a little like, what's the difference between nootropics and adaptogens and the stacking principle that you just talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 different little buckets there. So first, an adaptogen is anything that's going to help your body adapt to stress.
Okay.
It's something that's going to help your body cope with stress, help return your body to a state of homeostasis, a state of balance. Mm-hmm. But then in addition to that, to be an adaptogen, it has to be non-toxic. Mm-hmm. And then we have the nootropics. So many adaptogens are nootropics, but not all nootropics can be adaptogens, because nootropics are anything that are going to, in the short term and long term, boost cognition, boost memory, boost brain function. But many nootropics are actually stimulants. So like caffeine,
right,
theobromine technically, even Adderall can technically be a nootropic. A lot of nootropics can be toxic and can be really dangerous if you take them in high doses.
Theobromine, that's like what's in cacao, isn't it? Yeah.
So theobromine is one of the classifications of stimulants within like plants and mushrooms. Mm-hmm. So there's caffeine, there's theobromine, then there's a third one that I always forget, so I apologize, listeners. But caffeine actually breaks down into theobromine into your body. Oh. Mm-hmm. And what's incredible about theobromine specifically in cacao is that it has a much longer and much gentler energy arc. Mm. That's why it's such an incredible alternative to caffeine and to coffee. Mm.
Mm-hmm. So you guys out there making cacao.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Or even just a half coffee, half cacao. You don't have to go cold turkey. Do something that's...
Or really add it into your coffee, right?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Coffee.
Yeah, coffee. So that's adaptogens and nootropics. And then finally you have stacking. So stacking comes from the notion that, there are many plants and mushrooms that synergistically work together, which means the combined effects are going to be better than taking each of them individually.
The sum is greater than the equal parts.
Exactly. We saw that specifically with Paul Stammer's microdosing stack of lion's mane, niacin, and psilocybin. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing that with all of these products coming out, right? It's not just a single extract, a single mushroom. It's a whole stack of things that are going to work together synergistically. Like a really good example is maitake and shiitake. You almost always see them together, never apart, because they work so well together to support your gut, support immunity. They've actually been used as an adjunct to stomach and gut cancer in Japan since like the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So stacking is great. Listen to your body, find what works for you, and just know that a stack that works for me might not work for you, specifically when it comes to adaptogens, because everyone's body is different.
Yeah. Well, this has been so informative. So grateful for you both coming and sharing your wisdom and connecting. And once again, guys, we'll put the link in the show notes if you want to try the elixir along with me. And be sure to use code POSITIVEHEAD for your discount. Otherwise, I do have one final question for you guys. I'll ask you both separately, and it is my cliche closer. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to George and Phoebe.
I feel like the meaning of life to me is just existing and being present, and gratitude just for like being here on Earth for the short time that we are allowed here on Earth.
Yeah.
So it's more just about like making the best of each day and just embracing everything that the world has to offer.
Well said. Phoebe.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
To me, the meaning of life is finding a way back to love and finding a way to act in love and in accordance to yourself each and every day. To me, I'm so driven by a connection to nature and to life. And that is like the truest expression of love each and every day.
So to combine the two of them, my favorite quote, I kind of remixed a John Lennon quote, and it's "Love is the answer now." What was the question? So with that being said, love you all. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves and incredible hearts into another episode. Until next time, journey well.